They spoke together, not with words, but with thought. And the ground responded. Ancient machines rose from the ash. Rusted towers, forgotten drones, giant steel beasts, old Earth tech. The Council had failed to find them. But the children remembered. The old weapons powered up. Jake watched, stunned, as a dozen broken machines suddenly roared to life and began firing at the sky. "Is this," he whispered, "some kind of Neuralink?" Amy nodded slowly. "They're commanding the machines with their minds." Rafe let out a shaky laugh. "I take back what I said. These kids are terrifying." Above, the battle turned. Zelkeri cruisers were shot down one by one, not by human adults with guns, but by the long-buried weapons of Earth, directed by children. The last Zelkeri ship tried to flee, but the children raised a final cannon from deep in the crater. One blast. Gone. Silence fell. Then the wind blew through the dust, soft and calm. After the battle, Jake sat with Lyra inside the ruins. She was calm, like someone who had lived 100 lives already. "We were created in Project Ash," she explained. "When Earth's fall was certain, the scientists knew war would return, but they didn't just want soldiers. They wanted memory, feeling, soul." Jake looked at the other children, some drawing symbols in the dirt. "You're not just weapons," he said. "You're something more." Lyra nodded. "We carry Earth inside us. The stories, the grief, the fire. When enough of us are together, the Ark will open." Jake frowned. The Ark. A place hidden in Earth's core. It holds the last spark of humanity. A living memory. If we reach it, we can wake the true Earth and its wrath. Jake didn't speak for a long time. Finally, he said, "Then we better keep you safe." Lyra shook her head. "No," she said. "You don't protect us. We protect you." Back on Nexus Prime, Council Command screamed with alerts. Admiral Crix stood alone in the chaos. "Another loss," someone cried. Gratilus fell. A dozen human battlewalkers appeared from nowhere. Who activated them? A scientist stuttered. They say children did." Crix turned away, silent. A whisper reached his ear from a hidden speaker. A voice he hadn't heard in centuries. "You always feared we'd come back, Crix. You were right to." Crix turned pale. "Who is this?" But the voice was gone. Back in space, on the Wanderer, the crew prepared for the next step. "We can't keep hiding," Amy said. "They'll come in force now." Jake agreed. "We don't wait anymore. We gather the others. We activate the Ark." Rafe looked up, and then. Jake's eyes were like steel. "Then the galaxy learns what Earth really is." The Wanderer drifted in the shadows of a dying star. Jake Morrison stood at the viewing window, watching solar flares dance like ghosts across the dark. Behind him, Amy Chen placed a chip into a terminal. A faint hum filled the air. "The message from the children," she said. "It wasn't just coordinates." Jake turned. "What else was it?" Amy looked pale. "It was a signal, a frequency, buried deep in our DNA." Jake frowned. "What kind of signal?" Rafe leaned in from the side. "The kind that wakes something." In the Council's black site facility on the moon Virel, alarms screamed. A Zelkeri technician burst into the command room. "Sir, we have a problem." General Threx of the Zelkeri Union, cold, logical, undefeated, raised an eyebrow. "Report." The technician gulped. "Multiple human signals just activated across 29 systems. Not ships, not weapons. People." Threx narrowed his eyes. "What kind of people?" The screen behind him lit up with biometric scans. All human, all glowing with the same strange frequency. "They're waking up," the technician whispered. "The Ashborn." Back on Earth, Jake walked through the ruins of old Chicago. The bones of the city stood tall, cracked by war, but not fallen. He stopped before a giant wall, half covered in vines. On it, names were carved. Millions of names. Amy stood beside him. "What is this?" Jake whispered, "Everyone we lost." Lyra approached quietly. She pointed to the bottom. One name glowed faintly, Ava Morrison. Jake touched it. "My daughter." Amy's eyes widened. "She was here." Jake nodded. "She died the day the council came. She fought until the end. We all did." Lyra touched his arm. "Maybe not the end. Maybe just the beginning." That night, a message came through. Encrypted, old human codes. Dr. Mina Halleck appeared on screen, looking grim. "Jake, we've been betrayed." Jake leaned in. "Who?" She hesitated. "Reyes. He's joined the council." Jake's heart dropped. "Why?" Mina's face turned hard. "They offered him a seat, said humans could live, if we handed over Earth." Rafe cursed. "He'll sell us all." Jake shook his head. "No, Reyes isn't stupid. He's scared. But that doesn't mean he won't fire on us." Annie asked, "What do we do?" Jake's eyes turned cold. "We remind him what it means to be human." As dawn broke, Earth pulsed. Satellites activated. The Ark's core surged with power. The voice returned. "Fleet within range. Final defense protocols unlocking. Choose your command." Jake stood tall. "Activate the Terran shield. Launch the Ash protocol." Earth replied. "Acknowledged. Prepare for war." In orbit, the first Zelkeri scout ships arrived. They scanned the planet and were instantly erased by plasma beams from Earth's rings. Threx watched from afar. "Impossible," he muttered. Vex stared at the readings. They were asleep for 300 years. But their weapons never slept, Threx finished. He clenched his fists. "Bring the entire fleet." In the final hours before the war, Jake gathered his people. Soldiers, scientists, children, survivors. He stood on the balcony of the Black Tower. "My name is Jake Morrison. I was born on Earth. I saw it fall. I watched my daughter die. I ran. I hid." He looked at the sky. "But I never forgot. None of us did. The galaxy called us extinct, forgotten, weak. But we are still here. We are Earthborn. We bleed, but we endure. We suffer, but we rise." He raised his fist. "They think we're alone." Then the lights across Earth's surface lit up. Thousands of humans across the cities, forests, bunkers raised their fists too. Jake finished. "But we are legion." As the Zelkeri fleet arrived, stretching across the stars like a wall of death, Earth's defenses awakened fully. The Wanderer hovered above the tower. Amy stood at the gun controls. Raph manned the engines. The children of the Ashborn linked hands below, glowing like stars. And Earth itself whispered a final message to its lost children. "They took your past. Take back your future." The stars were no longer silent. The war had begun. The Zelkeri fleet stretched across Earth's orbit, hundreds of warships, shimmering with alien metal, ready to erase what they believed was a ghost planet. But Earth was not a ghost. It was awake and angry. Jake Morrison stood at the command center deep beneath the Black Tower. His voice echoed across the system-wide comms. "This is Earth to all surviving human colonies. The time is now. Send everything." One by one, the signals lit up. New Texas, Hollow Point, Red Rain Station, Drifter's Haven, Colony 9. Ships that hadn't flown in centuries launched into the stars. Mechs crawled out of caves. Old AI drones rebooted. Scavenged freighters turned into warbirds. Every human who could walk or breathe picked up a weapon or manned a console. For the first time in 300 years, all of humanity fought together. In orbit, the Zelkeri opened fire. Green beams slammed into Earth's atmosphere. The Terran shield held. Flames streaked across the sky as defense satellites retaliated, cutting through the darkness with piercing red lasers. Half a dozen Zelkeri ships exploded before they realized Earth wasn't just defending. It was fighting back. Inside the Wanderer, Amy Chen barked orders as the ship darted between enemy fire. Target their supply frigates. Cripple the back line. Rafe growled. That's a death run. Then die angry, she replied. Rafe grinned and hit the throttle. The ship tore through enemy lines, dropping mines and drone swarms behind it. One by one, the support vessels erupted into fireballs. Far below, the Ashborn stood on sacred ground minus 23 children, glowing like stars. They raised their hands to the sky. From the tower, beams of blue light surged upward, merging into one massive pulse that struck a Zelkeri command ship with the force of a small sun. The dagger of Vex shattered into burning debris. General Threx watched from his bridge. What are they? Commander Vex whispered, terrified. They're not just survivors. They're evolution. At the same time, the vaults beneath Earth opened fully. Thousands of cryopods released their ancient warriors. Men and women stepped forward, soldiers from Earth's last stand, finally waking from their 300-year sleep. Their armor hummed with old power. Their eyes burned with quiet rage. They didn't ask questions. They just joined the fight. Jake entered his own battle suit, black alloy, reinforced with alien metals scavenged over centuries. Amy linked to his comm. The Ashborn are nearly at their limit. They're burning fast. Jake clenched his fists. They've done enough. It's time I finish this. He launched into orbit with a squad of old soldiers. Their target, Threx's flagship. Inside the Zelkeri command ship, Threx screamed, "Crush them, burn their cities, kill the planet if you have to." But Earth had one final weapon left. Jake and his team crashed through the outer hull like meteors. Smoke filled the corridors as gunfire lit the darkness. Room by room, they tore through the crew. Threx waited in the command chamber with Vex. Jake entered, face scared, armor smoking. Vex aimed his weapon. Jake was faster. One shot. Vex fell. Threx roared, pulling a blade from his back. "You think this changes anything?" Jake stared him down. "No, I know it does." They fought. Steel against alien bone. Fist against claw. Jake was losing. Until Threx made one mistake. He glanced at the Earth through the view window. Jake drove his blade through Threx's chest. The Zelkeri general gasped, collapsing. Jake whispered, "You looked away. That's what you always did." As the flagship burned, the rest of the Zelkeri fleet broke formation. Earth's defenses crushed the remaining ships. Some tried to flee. The human colonies followed, chasing them into deep space. For the first time in history, the galaxy ran from humans. Hours later, the skies were quiet. Jake stood beneath the stars, watching the ash fall like snow. Amy limped beside him, blood on her sleeve. "It's over." He nodded slowly. "For now." Amy looked at the Ashborn. Most of the children were asleep now, their energy drained, but peaceful. Lyra still stood, watching Earth's twin moons rise. Jake asked softly, "Do you understand what they are?" Amy said, "They're us, but more." Jake sighed. "We burned once, but these kids, they'll build something new." He turned to Earth's dark horizon. "I just hope we taught them enough." Later, a message was sent across the stars. To every alien race, every council member, every species that laughed when Earth burned, every creature that thought humans were gone. A simple message. Video feed. Jake stands in front of the tower, the Earth glowing behind him. He speaks with a calm, broken voice. "You buried us. You erased us. You mocked us. But we survived. Not because we were strong, but because we remembered what it feels like to lose, what it means to fight for a home, what it costs to hope. You feared war. But what you should have feared was our silence. Because silence doesn't mean weakness. It means we were watching. And now, we've returned. Not for revenge, but to remind you, humanity is never gone. We're just waiting. And when we return, we change everything. The video ended with one line. We remember Earth. Weeks passed. The Council sent no reply. Most Zelkari worlds fell silent. And slowly, planets began contacting Earth. Not with weapons, with apologies, with peace offers, with fear. Jake didn't care. He handed leadership to the Ashborn. Amy stayed to teach the next generation. The Wanderer was parked in a museum. And Earth finally breathed again. Jake walked one last time to the wall of names. He placed his hand over Ava's. He smiled. She can rest now, he whispered. Behind him, Lyra walked up. Captain. He turned. She smiled. The stars are waiting. He nodded, then looked up. And for the first time in 300 years, Jake Morrison felt hope. Mace stood, the chains falling off like paper. I'm the part you forgot. His body shimmered and turned to light. He vanished. Back on Nexus Prime, panic was spreading. Council members argued, shouted, blamed each other. They have sleeper agents in our core systems. They built ships under our noses. We need to activate the Kroll Protocol. Full extermination. But Admiral Crix stood calmly and waited. When they stopped shouting, he said only one thing. You all forgot something important. The room went still. Crix looked at the stars beyond the window. They're not like us. Humans don't need numbers. They don't need approval. They just need one reason to come back. And we gave them 1,000. On the Wanderer, Jake opened a map of known human signals. There were at least 12 strong ones now. Others were faint, buried under layers of time and war. But they were there. Jake turned to Amy, ready to find the others. She smiled grimly. We've been ready our whole lives. Jake nodded. Then let's bring them home. Outside the ship, space shimmered as dozens of old human war satellites turned toward Nexus Prime. And far below, on Earth's surface, something ancient opened its eyes. The skies above the moon called Gravilis turned red. Not because of a storm, but because of fire. Flames tore through the old industrial stations, structures built centuries ago by human settlers before the fall. Now those ruins trembled as something woke deep within them. Buried far below the surface, hidden beneath rock and steel, an ancient chamber opened with a hiss. Inside, 30 human children lay in stasis, perfect, untouched by time. The chamber lights turned green. One by one, their eyes opened. The children of Ash had awakened. Back aboard the Wanderer, Jake Morrison stared at the blinking coordinates on the screen. Gravilis, Amy said. That's where the Ark ship sent its last signal. Jake frowned. That moon's on the Council's Forbidden Worlds list. Exactly, said Raph. They don't forbid empty rocks. Jake didn't hesitate. Plot a course. We're going. As the Wanderer neared Gravilis, it was clear something big had happened. Smoke still rose from the craters. Satellite wreckage floated in orbit. The moon's atmosphere shimmered with heat and static energy. Amy scanned the surface. Sir, I'm picking up human life signs. 30 of them. Underground. Small. Children. Jake's eyes widened. Children? That's not possible. Unless they were frozen, she said. Stasis pods, maybe. A project from before the collapse. Rafe whistled. Well, they're not hidden anymore. Zelkari ships incoming. 4 of them. Jake gritted his teeth. We can't leave them. Then we fight, Rafe said, already at the weapons console. Jake turned to Amy. Land the ship. Now. Below the surface, the children, each no older than 12, walked out of the chamber in silence. They were different. Eyes glowing faintly, skin perfect, breath calm despite the destruction above. A voice spoke through their minds. You are the last seed. You were made not just to survive, but to remember. One of the children, a girl named Lyra, looked up. Where are the others? Coming. Another child, a boy with silver in his hair, frowned. Will they protect us? The voice paused. No, you will protect them. The Wanderer landed fast, skidding across ash-covered rock. The crew ran down the ramp, weapons ready. Jake didn't expect to see kids calmly waiting outside an ancient ruin. Captain, Amy whispered. That's them. Jake approached slowly. My name is Jake Morrison. I'm human, like you. We came to help. The girl, Lyra, stepped forward. We know. We've been waiting for you. She looked past him at the sky. They're here. Overhead, the Zelkeri ships broke through the clouds. In the sky, the first Zelkeri cruiser opened fire. The Wanderer dodged and returned fire, but it was outgunned. Inside the ruins, Lyra closed her eyes. The other children followed her lead. Amy entered behind him. You sure it's time? She asked. Jake didn't answer. He reached forward and touched the device. The glow brightened. A soft voice spoke from inside it. Vault AI active. Confirm identity. Captain Jake Morrison, he said. Earth registry. Confirmed. Welcome, Captain. Amy stepped back as lights filled the room. A hologram formed of Earth. Not Earth as it was destroyed, but Earth, alive. Oceans blue, continents green, cities lit. Jake stared, silent. Earth is hidden, said the AI, but not gone. Amy gasped. Would you like to access Project Lazarus? Jake breathed deeply. Yes. The lights turned red. Warning. Project Lazarus activation will alert all buried human nodes. Do it, Jake said. Lazarus Protocol. Activated. Across the galaxy, in secret colonies and long silent human outposts. The signal traveled fast, faster than light. On a small moon called New Texas, farmers dropped their tools as the ground vibrated. A machine buried in the town hall lit up for the first time in 200 years. Mayor Ben Rodriguez ran to it, heart pounding. He pressed a button. A voice spoke. This is Captain Jake Morrison. Earth lives. It is time. Ben fell to his knees. Tears ran down his face. Others gathered. Some cried. Some smiled. Some simply looked at the stars above, remembering a home they had never seen. Nexus Prime. Moments later. Alarms screamed. The Council's mainframe crashed as a wave of hidden human code broke through their firewalls. Screens across the capital city blinked. Then played a short video. It showed Earth. Children laughing. Cities shining. Oceans rolling. Then, fire. War. Smoke. Alien ships bombing homes. Then darkness. Then Jake's face. You buried us. You erased us. But we remember. Then it ended. Crix stared at the screen, unable to move. Vex hissed. They're not coming back for peace. Final scene. The Wanderer's Bridge. Jake sat in his chair, looking out again. Amy stood beside him. Do you think they'll fight us? She asked. Jake didn't answer right away. He finally said, I don't care if they do. I'm not here for war. He looked out at the stars. I'm here to remind them what they tried to forget. In the silence of deep space, the Wanderer floated like a ghost. No engines burned. No signals flashed. It was invisible to most sensors. But inside, it was alive with something ancient. Captain Jake Morrison stood in the center of the vault as the Lazarus Protocol continued to run. Lines of old human code filled the room like falling light. They crawled up the walls, across the floor, and into the glowing machine at the center. Jake's hand was still on the device. Beside him, Lieutenant Amy Chen watched the Earth hologram flicker and change. New lines connected between old colonies. Lost ships lit up like stars. Amy whispered, "Is this real?" "All of them." "It shouldn't exist," whispered Jake. "But it's human. I can feel it." The Wanderer approached slowly. Inside the station, it was dark. No power. No movement. Jake, Amy, and two others entered wearing vacuum suits. The airlocks opened with a groan like something waking up after centuries of sleep. Their lights flickered across rusted corridors and sealed doors. Strange markings glowed faintly on the walls, symbols none of them recognized. As they walked deeper, the station seemed to shift. Amy touched a wall and jerked her hand back. "It's warm." Jake pointed at a nearby door. "This one." They forced it open. Inside was a room filled with old human tech, servers, cryopods, broken drones, and in the center, a single chair facing a large monitor. Someone sat in it. Jake rushed forward. The figure was dead, long dead, a skeleton wrapped in faded Earth Alliance gear, but its bony fingers still rested on a dusty keyboard. On the screen in front of it, a single line blinked again and again. "They are coming. Wake ye the others." Amy stepped back. What others? Suddenly, every monitor in the room lit up. The ship's AI buzzed over their comms. "Captain, power surges detected across the station. Something's waking up." Then the lights turned red. Alarms began to echo down the halls. Cryopods hissed open in distant chambers. Back on the Wanderer, Kieran shouted over the comms, "You need to get out. Now." Something activated the station's defense grid. But before the crew could move, the walls around them shimmered, and from the shadows, mechanical arms unfolded, glowing blue and scanning their bodies. "No weapons," Amy hissed. "Don't move." A deep voice boomed through the chamber, not through their radios, but in their heads. "Human DNA confirmed. Echo protocol reinitiated. Welcome home." Jake looked around. "Who's speaking?" "I am the last defense. I was built by those who knew the Council would erase humanity. My mission was to wait, and when humans returned, to awaken the hidden fleet." Amy's eyes widened. Hidden fleet. On the monitors, star maps appeared, dozens of them. Systems all across the galaxy. Back before the fall, Jake said, realization dawning. "We scattered ships, stations, people." The voice continued. "The Council thought they erased you, but they never found everything. Earth was protected. A false signal made it appear dead. This station held the key to awaken what remained. You are the spark." Suddenly, the station shuddered. Kieran shouted again. "Captain, a Zelkari scout ship just warped into orbit. They must have followed our trail." Jake turned to the others. "We're not ready for a fight." The voice echoed again. "You don't need to fight. You need only activate the signal." A platform rose from the center of the room. A single switch. Jake stepped forward, hand hovering above it. "If we do this," Amy said quietly, "we stop hiding." Jake nodded. "We stop running. We come back." He pressed the switch. All across the galaxy, in dead zones and forgotten ruins, old machines lit up. Ships buried under moons roared to life. Signals pulsed from long-dead stations. Cryopods cracked open, releasing humans who had waited for centuries. Some were soldiers. Others were scientists. And a few were something far more dangerous. On Nexus Prime, the Galactic Council froze as thousands of alerts hit their networks. Commander Vex stared in shock as entire sectors lit up with human transmissions. Admiral Crix dropped his star map. "They're back," someone whispered. On the Wanderer, Jake stood at the window of the control room, watching the stars come alive. "No more hiding," he said. "We just rang the bell." Amy stood beside him. "Now let's see who still remembers us." Outside, Earth turned slowly below them, no longer lost. And above, the ghosts of old humanity were waking. The great crystal hall of Nexus Prime buzzed with uneasy energy. The Galactic Council had not been this tense in 100 years. Holographic maps floated in the air, blinking with strange red signals. Entire quadrants, once quiet and secure, now lit up like firestorms. Admiral Crix paced the floor on his 6 legs, his green scales rippling in anxiety. "These signals," he growled, "they match old human frequencies. Very old. From the Age of Fire." A voice echoed from a side of the room. "But that's impossible. The humans were wiped out. Erased." The speaker was Grand Minister Thiller, the head of the trade species. His fur was dark and slicked down with sweat. 300 years ago, they were scattered. No colonies, no fleets, just ashes. Crix turned sharply, then explained the fleet that just emerged from the black hole sector of Dreven. 100 warships, all human design, all broadcasting Earth's old emblem, the double helix with the burning star. Commander Vex, his tail flicking nervously, hissed, "That system was silent for centuries. We never bothered watching it." "Maybe that was the point," Crix said, glaring around the table. "We got lazy. We forgot who they were." The council fell into silence. Far from Nexus Prime, on a dead world called Trion's End, 3 alien soldiers moved cautiously through ruined stone. They were scavengers, hired by the council to clean up forgotten battlefields. "Looks like another waste of time," said Joro, the insectoid leader of the trio. "Just bones and dust." "Hold on," said one of the others. "What's this?" They stopped before a massive steel door, half buried in the sand. Old human writing was etched across it. "Do not open. Siunte indeed by order of the last Earth Council." The smallest soldier laughed. "Old human threats. Cute." He pressed a scanner to the door. "No power. It's dead." Then the scanner blinked red. "What's that mean?" Joro asked. The soldier frowned. "It means something just powered up. Inside." They stepped back. The ground beneath them shook. With a screech, the door began to open. From the darkness, a soft blue light pulsed. Then something stepped out, tall, armored, human. But it was not just human. Its eyes glowed. Its voice echoed like thunder. "Unit 47B reactivated. Humanity's war code restored. Seek primary command." The scavengers didn't have time to scream. Back on the Wanderer, Jake Morrison studied a dozen new reports. Ships, drones, beacons. The signal he had triggered had done more than just wake up the station. It had echoed across the galaxy, calling all hidden parts of old Earth tech back online. "They're answering us," Amy said, scanning the latest data. "All of them." Jake rubbed his temples. "We're not ready to lead a war." "Then we better learn fast," said Raffi from behind, checking weapon systems. "The Zelkari just issued a bounty on any human ship. Word's out. They know we're alive." Jake stood slowly. "Good. Let them come." Amy turned to him. "Are you serious?" Jake nodded. "We've run for too long. We've let them own our history. Now they get to feel what happens when humans stop hiding." A light blinked on the console. "Incoming message," said the AI. "Encrypted. Human signature." Jake opened it. A man's face appeared, older, bearded, with deep scars across his cheek. "Name's Commander Rex Talon." The message began. "If you're seeing this, you woke the signal. Good. That means you're ready. I was stationed on the far edge of the Sagral Rift. I've waited 300 years for this day." He leaned closer to the camera. "Listen closely. Earth's not just alive. It's protected. Underneath the crust is a vault, a living AI that holds the memories of the old Earth leaders, generals, scientists, and secrets the Council never wanted you to find. The vault can only be opened when enough human minds return home. That's why you must gather them." The screen glitched. "Find the Ark ships, activate the Children of Ash, and whatever you do, Don't trust anyone wearing a council badge. The message ended. Everyone on the bridge was silent. Elsewhere, in a council prison hidden under the surface of Thalos EX, a single human prisoner sat chained to the wall. His name was Mace Arlen. He had been caught over 40 years ago and kept alive only because the council wanted to study his DNA. He had never spoken. Until today. Guards rushed into the cell, weapons drawn. Alarms were going off. The prison's AI was glitching. Mace looked up, smiling. It's starting, isn't it? The head guard aimed his weapon. What are you? 3 days later. Outer Border Sector Delta 9. A council scout ship moved through the dust fields. It searched for signs of human tech reactivation. They found something. A station. Small, metal, hidden under rock and ice. One officer went inside. He didn't come back. Another followed. No return. The ship tried to pull away. But then the lights inside the ship flickered. Systems froze. Control panels turned black. One message appeared on every screen, written in bright, glowing Earth letters. You erased us from your maps, but Earth is still here. The ship exploded. Back on the Wanderer. The decision room. Jake sat with his senior crew around a round table. No ranks here, just humans with hard choices. We started something, said Ravi. A signal. A spark. But now what? Asked Tessa. We go full war. No, Jake said softly. Not yet. He looked at each of them. But we do remind them of who we are. Amy crossed her arms. And who is that, Captain? Jake took a breath. We're the ones who remember pain, who carry our dead with us, who build from ash, who love deep, who never stop. He looked at the stars through the cracked window. We're the species they tried to forget, but we never forgot them. Amy nodded. Tessa smiled faintly. Ravi whispered, then let's show them what that means. Final scene. Hidden Earth vault, unknown location. Deep under layers of old rock, where no signal had reached in centuries, a human child's laughter echoed in an artificial garden. A woman stood above, wearing a white coat. Behind her, a long hallway of cryopods hummed to life. Thousands of humans, sleeping, waiting. The AI spoke. Wanderer signal confirmed. Protocol Unity, now active. The doctor smiled. Welcome back, Earth. The Wanderer floated in deep space, hidden inside a cold asteroid field near the shattered remains of the Liskar Belt. The stars outside were distant and dim. Captain Jake Morrison sat alone in the control room, staring at an old monitor with lines of strange, shifting code running down its screen. Lieutenant Amy Chen walked in, her boots silent against the metal floor. Captain, you haven't slept. Jake didn't look up. I know. Amy placed a steaming cup of synth coffee beside him, still watching the signal. Jake nodded slowly. It's not just noise. It's repeating. Same pulse every 6 minutes. Amy crossed her arms. It's ancient Earth code, isn't it? Yes, Jake said, but no one has used this encryption since before the fall. Amy leaned closer. Are you saying this is human? Jake's voice was barely a whisper. It came from Earth. Amy froze. Earth was supposed to be uninhabitable. Burned. Poisoned. Lost. But Earth's dead, she finally said. Jake looked at her. Then who's sending a message? 3 hours later, the Wanderer's crew gathered in the main briefing room. A hologram of the solar system hovered above the table. The room was filled with quiet tension. There's no mistaking it, said Kiran, the ship's tech officer. It's coming from the Sol system, specifically Earth orbit. Could be a trap, said Rafe, their weapons expert. Maybe the Zelkari finally found our signal patterns and are mocking us. Jake shook his head. The code is too human, too old. It's from before the Council took over the galaxy. Whoever's sending it, if it's really someone alive, They want us to come home. Amy looked around. Then we have a choice. We either ignore it, or we go to the one place no one thinks we'd ever dare return. Jake stood. We go. 2 jumps and 6 silent days later, the Wanderer reached the outer edge of the solar system. Everything looked wrong. The sun was dimmer. Pluto was gone, shattered into fragments. Strange energy signatures rippled from the moons of Jupiter, and Saturn's rings had black gaps that weren't there before. But Earth was still there. Blue, green, clouds swirled gently around its surface. It looked alive. "That's impossible," whispered Amy. "The council said it was poisoned, glassed in the third uprising." "They lied," Jake said quietly. "Or someone rebuilt it," said Karen, scanning. "But there's no signs of cities, no energy spikes. It's like nature came back. But the signal is coming from orbit, not the surface." They followed the signal to a point above Earth's equator. There, floating in the void, was something none of them could explain. It was a station, but unlike anything modern, it was massive, the size of a city, covered in plates of old Terran steel and wrapped in strange black vines. Some of its parts looked alive. "It's not on any record," Amy said, staring. Threx turned slowly. "I want them dead before they remember who they are." In the medbay of the Wanderer, Amy scanned one of the children rescued from Gravelis, Lyra. She blinked. "Sir, you need to see this." Jake entered. Amy pointed at the screen. "There's something in her spine. Biotech. Nano sleeves wrapped around her nervous system." Jake squinted. "Is it dangerous?" "Not to us, but I think it's broadcasting." "To who?" Lyra, who had been quiet until now, looked at them both. "To the Ark." Jake paused. "You said the Ark is on Earth." "It is," she said. "But Earth isn't asleep. Not really. It listens. It waits for a signal." Amy stepped back. "And this is that signal." Lyra nodded. "It's been listening for 300 years. Now it knows we're alive." The old moon, once called Earth, looked dead from space. Covered in ash. Broken. Silent. But miles beneath the crust, the Ark's core shimmered. Wires pulsed with life. Old Earth AI stirred in its sleep. A single eye flickered on in the darkness. Input RECIVED. Ashbor and ETECTED. Authorization TOD matched. Sequence Earth Rebirth Protocol Alpha. Status. Awakening. Meanwhile, Jake called an emergency summit. The last human captains, those still free, gathered through secret channels. Holograms shimmered on the Wanderer's bridge. There was Captain Reyes from the Iron Ghost. Tall, scared, missing an arm. Dr. Mina Halleck, leader of the Creo remnants. Her people had just awakened from 300-year sleep. And General McCoe, once a Martian warlord, now a protector of scattered human farms on the edge of Council space. Jake stood before them. "We've been hiding too long. Earth is waking. The Ark's listening. The Council knows. It's now or never." Reyes leaned forward. "And if we lose?" Jake didn't blink. "Then at least we go down fighting. Together." The signal from the children had spread across space like wildfire. All over the galaxy, hidden Ashborn stirred. Some in Council cities, living as workers, unaware of what they were. Others in deep space vaults, frozen for centuries. Now they all heard the same hum, felt the same pull. Old memories surfaced, skills they never trained for awakened overnight. And one thought echoed in their minds. Return to Earth. But the Council wouldn't allow that. They sent assassins, genetic trackers designed to sniff out Ashborn from scent alone. Cities burned. Refugee ships vanished. And still the signal kept spreading. Back on the Wanderer, the children gathered in the lower deck. They sat in a circle, eyes closed, hands touching. Lyra whispered, "It's almost time." Jake watched from above. "What are they doing?" Amy replied, "Linking minds, forming the pulse." Jake narrowed his eyes. "What's the pulse?" Amy whispered, "A signal so strong it can reach Earth, even from here." "But there's a cost," Lyra added. She stood up, eyes glowing. "This will hurt us. It will change us. But Earth must hear." Jake looked at her. "What happens if Earth wakes up? And it's not what we remember." Lyra looked him dead in the eyes. "Then we reminded." Far across space, on the planet Halen 3, an ash-born boy named Talek stood in the middle of a burning farm. Zelkari troops marched in. Talek raised one hand. His eyes turned white. The ground split. From beneath, a weapon rose, a metal giant with the Earth flag still etched on its chest. Old Earth war machines were never fully destroyed. They just waited. And now they marched again. In the council's inner chamber, panic spread. Dozens of ambassadors screamed. Humans are rising. The old tech is activating. They'll reach Earth. Admiral Crix slammed his fists on the table. "Shut up. We destroy Earth now. We end this." A silence fell. Commander Vex growled, "That world is locked. What if the legends are true? What if Earth fights back?" Crix glared. "Then we destroy the system around it." Vex paused, and then whispered, "We should have ended them when we had the chance." The Wanderer shook violently. Jake rushed to the bridge. "Report." Amy shouted, "3 council dreadnoughts incoming. They're not here to talk." Jake hit the intercom. "All hands, prepare to jump." But the children on the lower deck held firm. "We can't run," Lyra said. "We're almost there." "Then finish the signal," Jake yelled. Outside, lasers roared. The Wanderer lost a wing. Rafe fired back, but the shields were dropping fast. Amy screamed, "Jake, we're going down." But then, a light erupted from the lower deck, so bright it pierced the ship's hull. The AI spoke again, voice calm and soft. "Reconnecting dormant human colonies. Current estimate, 4,812 active signals." Jake didn't move. His jaw tightened. "We were told less than 1,000 survived." False information, distributed by Galactic Council media streams. Human colonies forced into silence. Orders from last Earth president. Hide. Survive. Wait. Amy stepped back, stunned. "They lied to all of us." Jake turned away from the device. "No. They told the truth they needed. We were gone. For them, that was enough." He walked to the command console and pressed a red button. The ship's internal lights dimmed. All systems entered silent mode. "Broadcast to only those who answer. No open signals," Jake ordered. Amy nodded. "No problem. I'll route it through the Lazarus stream." Outside the Wanderer, invisible currents shifted. Across the stars, thousands of hidden colonies were waking. New Texas, underground meeting chamber. Mayor Ben Rodriguez stood before his people, holding a tablet that glowed with Jake's message. He read the last line again. "We're not here to rule. We're not here to destroy. But we are here, and we are done hiding." The small room was full of tired faces, miners, builders, medics, engineers. Most were born after Earth fell. Some didn't believe Earth ever existed. Now they knew. A farmer stood up. Her hands were stained from soil, her voice strong. "If we answer, they'll find us." Ben nodded. "Yes." "Then what do we do?" Ben took a breath. "We stand up." A murmur filled the room. Some angry, some afraid. But under it all, a new sound. Hope. The Galactic Council. Emergency Code Red meeting. Admiral Crix stormed into the chamber, his armor still covered in ash from the dome attack. "Do you know what this means?" he shouted. Counselor Vex flicked his tail, annoyed. Yes, yes, humans are alive. We see that. No, you don't. Crix snapped. You don't understand. He slammed a claw on the table, and a hologram appeared. It showed the Lazarus Code tearing through old systems, waking buried human devices even the Council didn't know about. These systems are ours now, Crix shouted. They were silent for centuries. Now they're responding to him. That means... He paused. Vex leaned in. That means what? That means humans left something behind. Something big. Something we never found. Vex narrowed his eyes. You're talking about Earth vaults. Crix nodded slowly. Yes. The room went silent. The ship Gravedancer, outer Grave Belt orbit. Commander Delvar of the Zelkari Empire stood at the edge of a ruined human ship graveyard. Broken ships floated everywhere, silent, dead. Most were destroyed during the human purge. Others had simply shut down. But now, one by one, lights were turning on. Delvar's crew watched in silence as engines that hadn't run in centuries suddenly flickered. One ship, a battleship class named Sol's Edge, powered up its core. Its AI interface booted with a burst of Terran code. Delvar growled. Cut their power. Now. His engineers scrambled. Too late. The Sol's Edge opened its bay doors and sent a transmission. Across 3 sectors, old ships, long thought broken, began to awaken. The Wanderer, crew quarters. Amy sat at a small table with 2 crew members. Ravi, an engineer with oil-stained hands, and Tessa, a sharp-eyed pilot who once flew stolen cargo across enemy lines. This is bigger than we thought, Ravi said, wiping his hands. Lazarus isn't just waking up people, it's waking up machines. Tessa nodded. I just saw an alert. Some old human AIs are activating all over the galaxy. They were supposed to be destroyed. Amy took a sip of water. Supposed to be. But they weren't. Tessa raised an eyebrow. You think Jake planned this? Amy paused. I think he didn't know how big it would be. But he lit the match. Ravi leaned back. And now the whole galaxy's about to burn. Nexus Prime. Secret Zelkari archive. Inside a dark room buried beneath the city, a young researcher named Lyra flipped through old documents. She was not part of the military. She worked with history, forgotten things. She found one. A human file. Locked. Banned. Red stamped. For Council eyes only. She opened it. It was a message. Old, rough, full of warnings. Sent just before Earth went dark. They're coming for us. We don't have long. But we're not going to vanish. We're not going to beg. We're going to hide what matters. And when the galaxy forgets us, we'll make them remember. Lyra's hands shook. She copied the file to a secret drive and hid it in her clothes. She had to find someone. Anyone. The Council was lying. Humanity didn't die. It waited. The pulse had activated. Across space, Ashborn everywhere froze. Heard it. Felt it. And turned toward Earth. In Earth's core, the Ark's eye fully opened. Pulc recivid. Ash vor and co environment. Humanity pur to col einitai. Et. Giant doors buried under oceans cracked open. Satellites long thought dead powered up. Orbiting rings of defense rotated. Earth was no longer sleeping. She was listening. And she was angry. On the bridge, Jake watched the coordinates shift. Amy gasped. We have new coordinates. Earth's beacon just lit up. Jake's hand trembled. Set course. Rafe looked at the burning sky behind them. We won't survive another fight. Jake's voice was steady. Then let's make sure they remember us. The Wanderer jumped to light speed. And behind them, a voice echoed from Earth itself, across all frequencies. We are Earthborn. We remember. The stars stretched like threads of fire as the Wanderer exited jump space. Before them was Earth. No one spoke. No one breathed. It didn't look like the home from the history books. It looked older, wilder, wounded, but alive. Clouds circled slowly. Strange blue lights pulsed beneath the oceans. Orbiting debris glowed faint green, shifting like it had purpose. Jake Morrison stood at the front window. Tears rolled down his face. "We made it," he whispered. Behind him, Amy whispered back, "Welcome home, Captain." Orbit wasn't empty. A silent fortress ringed the planet. Built from black alloys, invisible to most scans, and still fully armed. It had survived for 300 years. A defense grid so powerful it could crack moons. Amy tapped the console. "It's scanning us." The lights inside the ship flickered. Then, a voice came. Old. Female. Calm. Wanderer-class vessel identified. Captain Jake Morrison. Confirmed DNA. Jake placed his hand on the console. A light scanned him. Identity confirmed. "Welcome home, Captain." Everyone stared. Earth had remembered him. As they descended into the atmosphere, the crew watched in awe. The sky shimmered. Cities once hidden under ruins came to life. Giant domes rising from cracked soil, lights flickering in patterns that felt familiar. Old Earth tech, self-repairing. Forests spread across old battlefields. Animals unknown to any database roamed open plains. Amy whispered, "This place rebuilt itself." Jake replied, "It waited for us." On the surface, the ship landed near a massive black tower. A voice came from it. "Ashborn children, step forward." Lyra and the others walked into the light. The ground opened. A platform rose, covered in symbols. The children stood upon it. One by one, their eyes glowed. Their bodies shimmered. Their minds connected. Amy gasped, "They're not just kids." Jake nodded. "They're the key." Suddenly, Earth spoke through every speaker. "Galactic threat detected. Zelkeri war fleet en route. Time to impact, 36 hours. Jake stepped forward. "We need weapons." Earth answered. "Then awaken the vault." The black towers split open. Inside, rows upon rows of cryo chambers, mech suits, war drones, and memory pods. Amy's jaw dropped. "These are soldiers. Old Earth soldiers, frozen at the fall." One of them opened his eyes. "Is it time?" Jake stepped forward. "Yes, the galaxy forgot us. Now we remind them." On the other side of the galaxy, the Zelkeri fleet moved fast. General Threx stood on the command deck of the Vengeance of Stars. Beside him, Commander Vex whispered, "Earth's beacon is active." Threx growled. "That world was supposed to be dead." Vex replied, "We made a mistake. We didn't erase them. We buried them. Now they're crawling back." Threx turned to his fleet. "Then we burned them. All of them." All across the galaxy, humans began to rise. Small settlements lit signal fires. Old weapons activated. The Ashborn began to gather. They weren't soldiers. Not at first. But Earth spoke to each one, reminding them of who they were, of what they had survived, of what they had lost. Anger turned to fire. Loss turned to unity. They no longer ran. They prepared. The sky above the Galactic Council moon base didn't scream before it broke. It simply cracked, like glass hit by a silent hammer. 1 second, the Council leaders were deep in discussion about trade routes. The next, the dome above them shattered into fire and smoke. Admiral Crix saw the light first. His green-scaled face turned toward the sky just as the white explosion came. It wasn't a missile. It wasn't a bomb. It was something else, something older. The dome collapsed in a flash. Beings from 47 worlds dove for cover. Winged delegates screamed as fire spread across the crystal ceiling. Sirens howled. Guards ran. The chamber filled with smoke and panic. Admiral Crix coughed as debris fell. His 6 legs moved fast across the shaking floor. He grabbed a younger officer and shouted, "What in the void was that?" "No readings. No warning," the officer cried. "It bypassed all our shields." A strange buzzing sound filled the room. Static. Then, a voice broke through the emergency speakers, deep, cold, human. "You forgot us. That was your first mistake." Crix froze. He hadn't heard that language in 300 years. No one had. Not since the humans disappeared. Another explosion shook the base. A council member with blue fur screamed as the floor cracked beneath him. Crix forced his way to the control center. A hologram flickered to life. It showed the sky, black and broken, and a single ship drifting above them. It looked old, rusted, patched with metal from at least 10 different species, but across its hull was a name, barely visible under scratches and carbon burns. Wanderer. Crix stared. Impossible. That ship, it was destroyed during the human purge. "No," said a voice behind him. He turned to see Counselor Vex, his long cat-like tail twitching. "They survived," Vex said coldly. "Somehow, they survived." Crix watched the screen. The Wanderer didn't fire again. It simply hovered, then vanished. The silence after the blast was worse than the noise. 3 hours later, deep space, aboard the Wanderer. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the ship, staring through a cracked window at the stars. He didn't smile. He didn't celebrate. He simply watched as fire faded behind them, knowing what he had started. "We got their attention," said Lieutenant Amy Chen behind him. Jake didn't turn around. "Wasn't hard. All we had to do was remind them we exist." Amy walked up beside him, holding a datapad. "They'll be hunting us now," she said. Jake nodded. "They always were. Now it's just open." The bridge was quiet. The rest of the crew worked without speaking. They all knew what they had done and what it meant. The strike had been small, just a warning. No deaths, just damage, just memory. Jake finally turned from the window. Any response across the networks? Amy handed him the datapad. "Interference. Council systems are shutting down. They're scared." Jake tapped the screen. Static. Encrypted messages, some in council tongue, some in ancient Terran script. One word kept showing up. Humans. Far across the galaxy. Council emergency meeting. Nexus Prime. Inside a new bunker, hidden deep under Nexus Prime's surface, panic ruled. "Where did the ship come from?" asked a Zelkara general, his silver wings twitching. "No known ports," said the data analyst. "It warped in from dark space. Coordinates show dead zones, places we thought were empty." Counselor Vey, a tall creature covered in fur, spoke slowly. "We erased them. 300 years ago. Earth is gone." We all agreed. Crix slammed his clawed hand on the table. "Apparently, we were wrong." He pulled up the ship footage again. "Look at that design. The plating is human. The thrusters are human. And that voice. There is no doubt." Another council member leaned forward. "But how?" "They were scattered. Hunted." Vex hissed. "They adapted. They hid." Silence filled the chamber. "Do we retaliate?" someone asked. "With what?" Crix growled. "They're not using known tech. They've changed. They've survived." They whispered, in silence. Back on the Wanderer. Hidden coordinates. Black sector. The Wanderer floated in the dark. No stars nearby. No planets. Just cold space. Jake walked into the central room, called the Vault. Metal doors hissed shut behind him. Inside were old Earth relics, books, tools, broken screens, and in the center, a round machine the size of a man's chest, glowing faintly.